Let's get more now with our Home and Security editor, Mark White, joining us in the studio with the police and, of course, Tom Tugendhat, the Security Minister as well, updating people on what is, a pretty comprehensive operation, it now seems.
Yes, huge. We were talking last hour about whether this would probably be the biggest policing operation in many years, and Metropolitan Police have confirmed that. It's actually bigger even than the Queen's funeral last year. They say that some 29,000 police officers will be on duty throughout that weekend period of the coronation. On the day itself, 11,500 officers compared to 11,000 officers on the day of the Queen's funeral. So it just gives you an indication of the enormity of the security operation itself, Mark.
Just to reiterate, no specific security threat, no direct threat as such, but clearly, given what happened at Buckingham Palace with this incident still being investigated, the man being questioned, they have to really prepare for any eventuality.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the threat picture out there in terms of the threat, first of all, from international terrorism is alive and a big problem that they deal with on a daily basis. They're tracking lots of extremists in the UK that could potentially decide to act out their issues in a violent manner. And they've got to determine, you know, at what period they intervene. Once they've got enough evidence, of course, to round these people up. But aside from international terrorism, you've got all kinds of other issues around activism. Today, for instance, just taking place as we speak down in Parliament is a protest from Just Stop Oil.
The so-called slow march that they've
been showing the pictures of that slow march around Parliament Square, police officers moving in to arrest some of those people as well from that Just Stop Oil protest. And actually, obviously to the annoyance of the activists, but handily for the police, new laws have come into power. That's the Just Stop Oil protest.
There we go, these pictures from a little earlier. Now, we've got the Deputy Assistant Commissioner also saying that the Met will not tolerate criminal behaviour in the name of protest, and that these new powers, I think the Public Order Act, will allow officers to arrest protesters who use the tactic of locking on, for instance, which you saw with many protests. But clearly, there is a question as to when does democratic protest become a criminal act?
It's always a balancing act, isn't it? You know, the activists will tell you that, look, you know, as long as it's peaceful, if they cause upset and disturbance and disruption to get their point across, then as long as it's peaceful, they don't believe they're breaking the law. But clearly that's not true, because we've seen, as borne out by the many protests that have taken place by Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil and other groups in recent years now, the disruption that they cause has spilled over into criminality. New laws have been passed to ensure it is actually treated as a criminal offence. And things just like the Just Stop Oil protest there, Mark, with them walking slow, that would now be deemed, if the police believe that it is causing enough disruption to be a criminal act, and these people could be arrested as well. We should just go back to the Security Minister, because talking overall about this very significant security operation, he told us earlier that, of course, the planners have had months to prepare for this, but worryingly, those who might want to cause disruption to this event have also had many months to plan for it. This is what he told us a little earlier.
We are working with intelligence agencies and police forces across the country. This has been months in the planning, and many people are working 24/7 to make sure we deliver what we need to see, which is a safe, a secure moment of national celebration, showcasing Great Britain and Northern Ireland to the whole world.
No, it's interesting. Tom Tugendhat says security can be a liberator in a democracy, not like an authoritarian state where it's a controller. However, the head of Republic, one of these protest groups on a political front, this is Graham Smith, said, look, we've actually liaised with police about what we're going to do in terms of our protests, and they're aware of what was being planned. But he said, we've then got a letter coming through from the Home Office, which is intimidating, an official letter warning of these new powers under the Public Order Act.
Yeah, well, and you know, from his perspective, he views it as intimidating. From another perspective, it would be the police giving fair warning to people not to indulge in activities that may be disruptive and break the law, because they will, in order to ensure that this event goes off without a hitch, move in and arrest. At the end of the day, groups like his, Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion and others can protest, of course they can, but if it moves over into that particular area where it is disrupting and potentially, you know, endangering lives as well, which hopefully it would never do from activist groups like that, but even disruption would be breaking the law under these new rules, and these people are being warned clearly that if they do that, then they risk arrest.
Now, we've had the rehearsals going on early morning and weekend and so on. The procession route, of course, is well known to people. But I guess we are going to see what are quite well-rehearsed procedures in terms of the barriers, and then the police facing the crowd, of course, to see what's going on, as well as the plainclothes security and royal bodyguards.
And the military. The military has a very significant role to play in this as well. So as well as the pomp and ceremony that we will see, thousands of military personnel marching in front of and behind the royal carriage as the King makes his way to and from Westminster Abbey. There will be other members of the military lining the route in between the police officers, really, to give that extra level of security, and they're able to respond and act if anybody, as we've seen in the past, make a dash to try to, stop that procession in its tracks. But of course, at the end of the day, if someone is determined to run out from the crowd, there's not a lot they can do except respond quickly, drag that person or these people away, and hopefully then the procession just continues as it normally would.
So
We've seen it many times before.
So for all the facial recognition technology, it still takes that physical intervention to actually apply the law as such.
Yeah, that's a higher threat level in terms of facial recognition. They want to know who's in there that might well be someone who is, a serious criminal, someone that might be in a position and
do something more serious.
Is absolutely intent on something that is altogether of a magnitude more serious, and that just gives them that extra tool to be able to hopefully isolate
which
these
wasn't there in 1953, of course.
It certainly wasn't. No.
Mark, thank you for taking us through all that. We'll update you, of course, on that security situation.